Welcome to the Rental Realm podcast. My name is Jay Ulrich. I'm here with the Noah Martin. How's it going, man?
Hey, how's it going, Jay? I'm doing good. Thank you for inviting me on this podcast. Excited.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for being here. Super excited to get your perspective on real estate. I know a lot of the different guests that we've had on the show so far have been involved in the short-term rental space. This is the rental realm, so I want to include as many people involved in real estate as possible. Anyone who is involved in rentals, so that's why you're here.
Yeah, thank you. And in terms of rentals, I'm involved in more of the long-term rental game. I know you're short-term rental, but I'm more involved in the multifamily side. And feel free to ask me any questions from the start.
Yeah, of course. So I know we've spoken a couple times before, pretty briefly, but sounds like a lot of your background, you kind of started in San Diego, which is obviously a great place to start. You went to UCSD, right?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
So how did that blossom into your real estate career?
Yeah, so I went to UCSD. I actually was a transfer student in 2019. And then graduated in 2021. So the fun COVID years. And I went to school specifically for real estate development, where I learned just more of the full understanding of how do you actually develop a property. And what that means is you take a piece of land and turn it into a building, and the city allows you to do that. And so there's this very long process. So I understood that piece with a little bit more of the financing. There's things called performas. So I understood that. But out of college, I actually saw the opportunity in construction. So I paired up with my business partner now for a general construction company, because I knew that there was a lot of properties that were going to be developed and that service was needed. So I started actually in the sales side first, building the sales and operations piece of the general construction company, brought a lot of pipeline in, started doing small remodel homes, and eventually graduated into new construction because I didn't like remodels, dealing with homeowners that were just very picky. I wanted to work with investors. And new construction, you have a lot of investors because they have property and they want to develop on it. And started doing these small little things called ADUs, and eventually grew into the multifamily space, the 10-unit, 20-unit projects as a contractor. And simultaneously, because I went to school for real estate development, I understood the whole picture. And so now I'm bringing that experience as well. And I'm capturing projects, doing full cycle of development of 20-unit projects right now. And what that means is I have all the team under my belt of architects, engineers, subcontractors to go A to Z. And so I'm helping these developers out as a contractor, and then also as a developer with them, co-developer or development consultant, meaning that I could take control of the full project for them because they don't know how to do it, but I do.
Right. Cool. So it's like everything's in-house for you. That's awesome. You built it that way, which is very cool. So I guess I'm curious about how you started as far as the sales. And I remember you mentioning you already had kind of sort of pre-existing connections within the real estate industry, or maybe you built those along the way. How did that transition into you starting to get deals? Yeah.
So when I started, I actually contacted real estate agents, and I called probably 3,000 of them my first year of in the business to get a pipeline of real estate agents, because they have people that they're a service provider. So they need to connect everyone with everyone. So I was a general contractor for them, but then they started reaching out saying, hey, I have this investor who has this piece of land he's owned for 10 years and he wants to do something with it, but he has no idea what to do with it. And so I started talking to these investors that wanted to do development, didn't understand it. And I was able to pitch them as me being the consultant. I'll take over and help you. I'll bring my team of architects, engineers, and then also my construction company to go full cycle. So that's what started it. The sales of a real estate agent send me to an investor, and the investor and I was just captured that opportunity as my first deal. And I started doing development consulting and guaranteeing the construction of these bigger projects. And that's how my niche of sales and construction helped me in the development world.
Yeah. I feel like real estate agents are great because they're like that connecting piece. A lot of times when someone needs to buy a property, they're the first person that they go to, you know? So for me in the short-term rental space, I know I kind of got in with a decent amount of realtors in San Diego and then also Arizona, where I used to operate. And whenever somebody was looking to invest, especially out of state, they were like, I'm looking to invest here because it looks great for short-term rentals. And we need somebody to manage. So they'd be able to purchase, the real estate agent would help them buy the house. And then they'd be like, I have a manager for you. It's a perfect symbiotic relationship. and vice versa. If someone's looking to sell or buy a house in a certain area, we can send them that way. So it's cool that you kind of like leverage that piece of it. But calling 3,000,
yeah,
that's quite a lot.
Yeah, I called 3,000 people. It was day in and day out every single day for a year straight to get to that pipeline.
Cold calling.
Yep, cold calling, and I just continuously built the sales pipeline up. And now I focus on the construction side. I have a pipeline of about 5 to 10 million a month of all different size projects. So some months I sway because I get, $4 million buildings that are 10 to 30 unit size that I bid as a contractor or can help as a development consultant. And in the process, I'm still building those smaller duplexes, quadplexes, because there's a dime a dozen out there. And I have the process and I have the social proof to take on those projects. The bigger multifamily stuff is what I'm trying to break into. So I don't have less social proof, but I had the experience from a contractor because wood's wood, framing is framing. It's just you're doing it bigger at scale. So can you just learn and dial in as a contractor? And because I'm now digging into that space, the development side is really coming in. And when I look at the whole picture of who I am and what I'm doing, I would say 50% is construction and 50% is development consulting. And a good showcase project right now is I went to build someone's ADU and they backed out. And the partner actually asked me, hey, I have this piece of land in North Park that I want to add units to. Can you look at it? So I looked at it from the lens of a contractor, but also the lens of a developer. And I saw, wait a minute, this 4,500 square foot lot has this certain zoning and this certain density incentive that I can put a 22 unit apartment building on it. So fast forward today, I have a project in the city that is a 22 unit multifamily project in North Park, $10 million valued building that I'm managing as the development consultant for the owners because he doesn't know how to do it. And I have a chance to also being the contractor on that project.
Is that the one you were mentioning? It's like northern North Park. Is it off like Madison? Or?
Yes, it's off Madison. We'll make sure to put up the rendering, slap it on here.
Yeah. I want to say, so I was driving that road the other day and I saw a building in construction. Are you that far along in your development?
No, this one's still within the city. All my projects that are actively in construction are smaller. All my big projects are either about 6 months away from breaking grounds, or I'm working with developers as a general contractor as well. And that will happen in 1 to 2 months. I may potentially break ground on some other 20 unit projects.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you said like 50%. Were you referring to like half your time?
Yeah, half my time, half my pipeline is pretty much split as I'm 50% general contractor and 50% developer as a consultant.
Okay. And do you like syndicate the deals for the investor?
No, I don't do syndications. That's the one area that I steer away from. If I'm involved, let's just give a scenario where because I'm starting to get my own projects and my own pipeline of acquisitions, my way of how I do a deal is because I'm the operator. In a deal, there's the deal, the debt, and the equity. Those are the three puzzles. The deal is obviously the land or the opportunity. The debt is the construction loan or hard money piece to really pay for the construction of it. And then the equity is the remaining balance. Say if a loan of 70%, you need that 30% is the equity, which is investors. Okay, so there's your capital stack. I'm this fourth piece, the operator, which no one talks about. So the deal guy, the debt guy, and the equity guy. But there's the operator guy, the one who can actually execute the business plan. So I'm able to articulate and bring the full team in. Now, because I'm so deep into it, I have investors that are knocking on my door. Hey, I have 100,000, 250,000, 500,000 that I want to invest into your projects. And so that's how I'm getting my investors in. Most of the investor types are family office, high net worth individuals, landlords. So they mostly have checks, 500,000 or more. Some of them can just fully fund a project from 2 to 3 million. And so I'm not syndicating. I'm bringing 1 or 2, 3 guys most into a deal for the money.
Yeah. And so you kind of steered away from using or going to, I guess, selling your services to a single family homeowner, smaller, like less equity based investors. You have people who are already bringing in all the money, which is super convenient.
Yeah. Bringing the money. And I think the why component, why I'm going down this route is important. And so I think I want to talk about a little bit about the San Diego market
Yeah,
for those on your podcast that don't understand it. So San Diego is a growing market right now for several reasons. One, we have 3 primary schools: UCSD, USD, SDSU. We have the biotech that's just swarming into the North County of San Diego. We have the naval base. We have all these other big companies coming in that are producing a lot of demands. The interesting part about San Diego is that if you look at the geography or topography of San Diego, we're stuck between an ocean, a mountain, and a border. So we have nowhere to build. We're already built out. So we have all this demand, but we have no supply to take in all this new just surge of people coming into the city. So it's creating an area where the city has to say, hey, I have this housing crisis. I need 100,000 units by 2030 or 2035. And we're building at like 6,000 to 10,000 a year. We're not going to reach it. So the city decided to say, hey, to keep up with the housing problem, I'm going to allow for this max density across city of San Diego. So they put down a map, and just imagine putting a blanket over the map of San Diego. And if your property is within this blanket, you can do this thing that allows for higher density. So you can take, let's just say my example, the 4,500 square foot lot it's an existing triplex. The max it can do on a 4,500 square foot lot based on base zone is 5 units. But there's this thing called complete communities that allows you to maximize the density significantly. So I went from having a 5-unit building to where I'm allowed to do up to 40 units. And I decided 22 units as the sweet spot. And all of San Diego's in the city is mostly like that. So you're seeing all this opportunity of, hey, we need to do these infill developments. And that's why, I don't know if everyone's here in San Diego, they could see these big buildings popping up everywhere, because the city is mostly pro-housing and pro-development, that you can build those or permit, design, engineer, approved by the city in 18 months.
And those are rent controlled, right? Most of them?
No, most of them market rate. My 22 unit has only 2 units that are affordable housing.
Oh, really?
So you can do mostly affordable housing with some mostly market rate units with some small amount of affordable housing, and it doesn't mess up from a deal structure. So San Diego right now is this big surge for everyone to go buy property and develop it. And I noticed that because I was obviously in the sphere of San Diego and understood how San Diego worked holistically from school, my background. And it's a big driver to why I'm doing what I'm doing now. Yeah,
that's huge. So I guess the start of your career as far as the development side, did you start with ADUs or was it small multifamily?
Yeah, I started with my career development. I started with ADUs doing this thing called the design build contract as a contractor.
Okay.
So say just a homeowner wanted, actually my first one was for it's the mom's son. It's like, hey, in Bird Rock. It's like, hey, my son needs a place. It's too expensive. I can't buy anywhere, but I'm just going to build this ADU. Can you help me? And so I signed a contract with her to doing full design and construction, or I went to the city with all the plans and engineers, or with architects and engineers. I got plans, got them stamped by the city, and built it as a contractor. So it was my first design build contract. And I was like, wait a minute, I can do this for bigger projects. So I started talking to investors. I started talking to more real estate agents. I started talking to landlords. And it went from doing 1 unit to 20 units. Now I'm involved on 31 unit apartment building. We have other bigger commercial buildings out there that are not in San Diego, but most of it is the 20 to 30 unit apartment buildings that I'm actively developing as a development manager.
So development manager, is that more so your title within the team?
Yeah, I would say I'm development manager. My specific title is really because I'm with a company, Gotzik, and we're a development company and a construction company. My business partner, Mark, and I really dug 3 years out of when I came out of college with him and built the construction side up. And then we just brought his development experience in, and I always had mine. And I'm more of my title's associate, but I'm partner, business partner, guy who puts out fires that needs, or sales, whatever it is. Savage closer, savage developer.
Yeah, that's cool. And so you guys have an office, right?
Yeah, we just got an office in Kearny Mesa, actually.
Kearny Mesa. Okay. I want to say, because I was on your website before the podcast, I was looking at where, I don't know which address maybe it was on your website or wherever it was. It looked like it was in UTC.
Yeah, we had a one in UTC. It's more of a conference room still for just more luxury clients. We'll take there, but we just transitioned everything into a full office because we started hiring new people. So I got a project manager and an executive assistant for construction to start helping us. So it's a team of 4 now versus it was just a team of 2. And we're going to build it into a team of 6. And the goal is to be the multifamily developer for complete communities of the 20 to 50 unit projects and build all of them too.
Heck yeah.
So in 2 to 5 years, I want to become the local legend of developments and construction for these multifamily buildings.
Do you have any like goal projects that are a lot bigger than what you've already done, or are you staying within that realm of like 50 units max?
Yeah, I think in business you have to stay in a certain realm and become very niche and become very efficient in it. Meaning you have to be able to overperform. You have to be able to have a full system that can take on multiple projects for scale purposes. And you have to just purely execute on all sides. And that's very hard to do with multiple big apartment buildings. So I think that's going to be our niche is going to be that just 30 to 50 unit builder, developer. But simultaneously, there's going to be other passion projects. Hospitality is obviously one of the big ones. I'd love to build a hotel eventually. And I think those are the 2 spaces I'll stay in: multifamily for the most part, and do some passion projects on the hospitality side. Nice.
So from an investor standpoint, what is your rate of return that you usually do? You guarantee them a certain rate of return, or you just say like, this is an estimate and this is what you might be looking at to pay off? Or I guess they're doing all cash, right? So what do you typically tell them as far as I guess the money that they're earning back on their deal?
Yeah. In real estate in San Diego, multifamily, you want to be close to 18 to 20% IR. That's the target you want to have. I think most projects will have like an annualized return of 16%, and that's your entry. So if you can get to that 19, 20% annualized return, you have a good deal in your hand in San Diego. And that's where you need to hit, because San Diego, people look at money in 2 different ways. There's the cash on cash, meaning how well is my money being worked? And then there's the actual return. How much am I getting back? California is not a cash on cash area. It's more of an equity or appreciation. So you may have, your money may be worked slower in the beginning, but when you sell, you have a massive chunk of money that comes in. So that's where California really stands out, is you have more of an equity piece. So if you're looking for high returns, annualized that are like 30%, you're not going to get them here in San Diego unless you have a really smoking deal, which happens. Most of the projects I would say you want to aim for the 20%.
Okay. And so now moving into I guess the design aspect of the consultation, or I guess of the whole process, is there a particular design aspect that your company uses that you feel like, I don't know, maybe it's a certain design feature of a building that you guys is like your signature, or is there a typical standard of how you develop a multifamily building? And I guess as far as like the engineers that are involved, how do they go about designing your typical like 20 to 50 unit building?
Yeah. So when it comes to design of a building, most projects in San Diego are just rental grade stuff that you can just find, and they want to be cheap, and they just build a box. We don't have that approach. We want to build something that kind of stands out, something that has a little bit more efficient thought of. We don't want dead space. So during a design of a project, I look at every single square foot for circulation purposes, design purposes, and also just the cost purpose, because everything has a dollar figure to it. So we actually are very, very good at creating high valued, sexy looking projects while still being cost effective. Because in development, when I look at plans, I'm going through the development, I'm wearing a hat as a developer. I'm wearing a hat as an investor, which when you're an investor, you worry about money. And then a hat as a contractor, which you worry about the actual constructability of the building. So I have a very unique perspective on a project. And so I'm able to maximize rent by attractiveness. I'm able to increase the design, reduce dead space, increase value. Let's just say if project is 20 units, I know how to make it 21 units while making it still efficient. And then in the engineer standpoint, I know how to save $100,000 in engineers because they want to put steel beams in certain areas, depending on how tall the building is. And I know how to say, no, we don't want to do that. Here's an alternative solution. So every project I'm involved in, that's a big development. I can save $100,000, $200,000, add $300,000 of value, and then build it at a cost-effective way. So I'm really coming in vertically integrated and supporting the project fully, and I'm adding most of the value, more than most if a flipper went into development, because I have so much experience. I can see everything so differently because I have all these lenses. So I'm able to add immense amount of value at such a young age.
Yeah. And so you're 28 now?
28. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm 27. So maybe next year I'll be where you're at. But yeah, I know you were showing me a couple of the different renderings of the projects that you're working on. Very unique looking. I know one that I'm thinking about there was like a vertical like fascia with balconies on the outside.
Yes.
Which project was that?
Yeah, that's the 22 unit project.
Okay.
And so that's a great one to talk about. So essentially that project was originally designed as a 21 unit, and we were able to push walls out and move space, understand the regulation of what the city wants. And I was able to gain a little bit more square footage for the footprint of the building. I was able to squeeze additional unit out on the first floor. And that project, in terms of amenities, has a big lobby, has an elevator. It has a 18-foot ceiling on the first floor, so lofted space for the unit. So they'll be 500 square feet, but they'll have a lofted space above.
Was this
for more
complete
square footage.
new development?
New development.
Okay.
It has a rooftop deck. It has private balcony spaces. It has interesting facade details, so it doesn't look just like a box. And all in-unit washer dryer, which I think is a mandatory that a lot of people are missing nowadays. And the design is going to be more of so far what we've decided is more of a Bali wood theme. And it's going to look good.
Nice.
And I'm very excited. We'll put the rendering, like I said, up on this, so you could just slap it on there in the video somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, North Park is such a perfect place for that too.
It is.
It's it's booming like crazy. I mean, most of San Diego is. It's pretty wild. But you'll see even like properties that look like single family homes, they have a decent sized backyard, and then you'll just see like 7 units, like 5 units stacked on top of each other.
Yeah, and you're seeing that because of the housing crisis. There's just so many units that need to come up in San Diego. You could put 1,000 units into the market today, and you wouldn't make a dent in the impact of how much housing we actually need. So for everyone that's an investor or looking at opportunity, San Diego, the opportunity for real estate is now. And for the next 5 years, if you're either going to be on the opportunity train or you're going to be left in the station, and the market doesn't care if you're on the train or not. So I saw that in the very beginning when this stuff started happening 2 years ago. That's why I got so heavily involved, because I saw the train of opportunity, and I was like, the market says we can go do these things now. I need to act now. So I performed in every way, from construction, development, pipeline, investing. And that's why I think I mentioned this, I have 20 to 25 active projects in real estate and construction at all times.
Yeah, that's huge. Very cool.
Yeah.
I guess not as much of an interesting topic, but I'm very curious about it as far as the permitting process with the city of San Diego. Is that a quick process? How long does that take? And is it grueling? Because I know I've dealt with an ADU approval before, and it took like almost a year just to get an inspector.
Yes. So the permitting process San Diego has always been slow. 5 years ago, it used to take, for doing a 30 unit project, it would take you 3 years. Now with all the incentives, you can do a same size project in 18 months. But the problem is the smaller projects, the ADUs, you can do at the same rates as apartment building. So people are building these small ADUs that are taking a year to get through the city, while my projects that are a little bit bigger taking 18 months. Mm-hmm. So the value to time is great for these bigger apartment buildings, and it's streamlined just as well as those smaller ADU projects. So permitting, I think the long story short is the city is getting more streamlined. They are getting more regulated. However, the timelines is staying about a year, 18 months. And if you're hitting those metrics, sometimes faster, that's good. You should expect that. You're not Austin or Texas, Texas areas where you're getting it in 3 months or over the counter. City of San Diego is highly regulated. Expect all development to at least take a year.
Right.
And if you're doing complete communities, which is the apartment incentive I've been talking about, 18 months to 2 years. If you're doing anything called entitlement, which is a pre-phase before permitting, a project can take 3 to 5 years.
So are you specifically in the city of San Diego or county in general?
A city of San Diego. I've done projects in the county of San Diego, but most of my work is in the city of San Diego.
Okay. So if you were to put like a magnifying glass over the city of San Diego and for the people that are listening, maybe potential investors, is there a particular community within the city of San Diego that you're looking at that is growing at a greater rate, really has a good opportunity right now? Or is there, anywhere in particular that you would suggest looking to invest at this time?
Yeah, I do. I think that the top markets, we'll start with non-coastal areas. Bankers Hill is a great market. Golden Hill is a great market. I think North Park is still a good area. Hillcrest is being really developed, but if you can find a really good deal, that's a great area. I don't think City Heights is a good spot. I don't think Grant Hill's good. I don't think Southcrest is good. We're just not there. Maybe in 5 years, we'll get those areas developed. It's just, I think those markets are lacking in the type of renter, the type of value, and the value of the building doesn't justify how expensive the cost of construction is. So cost of construction exceeds value. So it's not feasible. Coastal markets, I think Pacific Beach and OB are areas that I'm heavily looking at. Coastal markets mean they're higher barrier to entry because things are double the price. You can buy stuff for $300,000 to $400,000 a door in the other markets, but in Pacific Beach you're buying for $500, $600. So you have a higher barrier to entry because the price is high, but the development value is still there. And I think that, adding a sexy building in PB is always a smart move as a developer, especially with all these regulations that allow you to do it.
Yeah, I'm hoping City Heights gets more developed though, because that's where I live. So yeah. I think long term buy and hold. It's crazy because you look back at like how North Park was developed, and like I didn't live here during that time. I moved here in 2020, but people that talked to me about like how it was even 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it was like, not a very nice area, a lot of crime, lower development and just lower price housing. And now it's gentrified completely. It's like a super hipster area. Like everybody comes now. When I drive through North Park, it's like a touristy place. Like people are walking around taking pictures and all that stuff. Yeah,
it's becoming the touristy. And when you have demand and so many people looking at that area, you're able to capture that demand and do a lot of cool stuff with it. So you're able to put up a sexier building that may be more expensive, but you can get higher rents because it's a premium because people want to be there. I think you have to take that mindset if you're doing anything high valued, or if you're looking at City Heights, you really need to build efficiently. And when you build efficiently means that you have to put less into it. So you make a more inferior building, and that's the problem. I want to build in areas that I think that are up and coming, that will appreciate a building that's not just a box, and really supply something very interesting to the market, to separate myself and my company from most other developers, contractors.
Is there a new North Park that you see coming up in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, I do. I think North Park is going to be heavily apartment buildings. Most of the projects don't have parking, so that's going to be a concern. If it was 510, that's fine, but you're seeing them all over the place. So I think they either need to start building, I don't know how they're going to do this, but I think there's a parking supply that needs to be added. And there needs to be a public-private venture between the city and a developer to add a parking structure in those areas, because the street parking is getting taken away for bike lanes. So North Park is going to become extremely walkable, and the infrastructure of San Diego's transportation better catch up, or it's going to become a problem.
Yeah, they were doing a ton of construction on Pershing for like years. It was like 3 years they're adding that. I think that they were either, and then they were putting a median, they were adding a bike lane. Yep. They're trying to make it more, efficient with bike travel, and San Diego's just not built that way right now.
Right now, I think you look at two issues. You have a housing issue and you have a transportation issue. City of San Diego said, I'm gonna focus on the housing issue. I'll worry about the transportation issue after I fix this housing issue. So everyone in San Diego, I'm sorry to tell you this, but you're gonna have to start looking for a lot of spots for parking, and you're gonna start taking a little bit longer walks than you want. Yeah. But hopefully that will be corrected. And hopefully at the same time, developers will figure out how to add parked buildings versus the no parking problem. I think you need to start adding a parking ratio of at least 50% as a developer, and that's where I'm aiming for on my projects.
Have you done any projects with like underground parking?
I'm actually, I'm supporting as a consultant a 31 unit apartment building with underground construction in Pacific Beach right now.
Okay. Does that include like embankment plans? Is that, I think that's what the term is, right? When you dig deep, you have to set up basically a structure around it.
Yeah, you have to do grading plans, which require a huge civil to be involved and big shoring walls. And when you dig deep underground, you don't know what you're going to find. Underground parking structures are so complicated because you just never know. You can do all the soils reports and inspections of the soil to try to figure out where the water table is and try like, okay, I can go 10 feet or I can go 20 feet and I can put, 2 stories under or 1 story under. And the reality is you just don't know how that soil is going to move when you take it out. And so underground parking is very expensive. It's one of the most complicated building types, in my opinion, to actually go execute as a contractor or pay as a developer.
So nothing would really make you do that as a developer or investor, I guess, besides the city telling you to do so, right?
You have no incentive to add parking right now, I think, but people are starting to realize you need it. I think there's an equilibrium that happens that developers have to be mindful of, because if you put an inferior development on the market and you don't get the rates, you don't get the rents, you don't get the absorption, the building starts to fail and you just lost your investors' money. So you have to be very careful. And I think doing an underground parking in Pacific Beach is smart. It's going to be expensive. And so we will, in 2-3 years, we'll go through that cycle, and the developers, I'm not the owner of that, I'm just a consultant helping them. They'll make the final decision, and hopefully it checks out for them at the end of the day. I'm very excited to see that project go full cycle if they continue with the underground parking structure.
Yeah, definitely. I can imagine in Pacific Beach, that's like, you talk about water table. I'm like, damn, that sounds like if you go down a couple stories, you might be hitting some water.
Yeah, if you go, thankfully, I think in that area, it's not too deep. Maybe it's like 40 feet. But there's
wild.
In development, there's a ton of stuff you have to worry about. More than you can think. And so I have 30 concerns when I look at a property immediately. And some of the big ones is what's the site condition? Is it flat lot? Is it a slope? What's the soil? Is there a flood zone? I guess some other things like, is there an easement on the property? Are there power lines that are going over the property? Do I worry about a certain species of plant or animal that's there that's going to impact my building? I can't build there. Those are all types of concerns and risks that you just don't really know until you start to dig into the development. So development can be out of your control at times because of all these variable factors that the city wants to make sure that you're complying with. And that's where the issue of why it's so expensive, because you run into so many issues and it costs money and time. And so people forecast a building or apartment building to take, it's going to take me 2 years to get plans, or let's just say 3 years total to get plans and build construction. And they didn't do this pre-sniff or pre-test of the site, and they realize it's unfeasible, and they just spend $100,000 in plans and they can't do anything with it.
So if somebody wanted to follow in your footsteps, more or less, do something similar to what you're doing and take it, do the entire realm of the construction phase with development and all that, what would you suggest is the best? Because I think the way that you got involved is really unique, and the way that you kind of got introduced into real estate. And it's great that you have a partner that was able to kind of like build that up with you. But how would you suggest somebody gets involved in the same way that you are?
Yeah, I think if anyone's out there wants to get involved in real estate, you need to have a specific niche or focus in the market. Mine was sales. So I took sales of construction and able to build a pipeline to justify my value. You can be a deal guy. You can go out and go find all the deals and say, hey, look, there's these lots. I'm going to go focus on just what is out there that's actually good and try to capture that. You can be the money guy who's like, okay, I'm really good at understanding how the debt side works with banks and lenders. I'm going to go focus on that, and that's my value. Or you're the equity part, where it's like, I have investors and I know a lot of investors. I'm going to capitalize and try to tell them, hey, I'm getting development. Focus on that. Or the fourth piece, the hidden piece no one talks about, is the operation. What I did also was I'm going to go figure out actually how do you develop? Then those are your 4 avenues. You got to take one of them. Don't try to take all of them. I think stay in one lane and become a master at that one versus a jack of all trades. Become a master, add a lot of value, and then slowly build your skill set over time with other things.
Absolutely.
So, focus on one item and really dedicate time to it, 2 to 3 years, and you'll break away from most, and people will start to notice you in the market.
That's good advice. So, I mean, and sorry if you touched on this already, but when you came out of college, what did you begin working in? Was it construction? Yeah.
So out of college with my partner, he started a general construction company, just his license. And so he just has license, and he's like, hey, Noah, I got my license for construction. I have some development experience, but I want to be a contractor. And I need help with the front ends of sales, systems, pipeline, marketing. So I started in that focus.
Okay.
And I built after I started to show that I can build the system, build the sales. Once the lead comes in, I can push it all the way to contract and be a closer and close projects. That's where I really added a lot of value. And I was able to capture people that had land that wanted these projects but didn't know how to develop. So I was able to bring in, we can do that. And so the service went from general construction to, hold on, I can do design build. I'll do the whole thing for you. Now it's, hold on, I can do design build from development standpoint and do it as a consultant. So you get all my vendors at cost, but you just pay me a retainer fee every month. So it really broke out into this bigger consulting company.
Yeah.
We're able to just now have so much pipeline and control so many projects because it's a skill-based game. People always ask me, if you have so many projects, how do you efficiently manage it all? And development is a skill game. It's not really a time game, meaning I can look at a property and within 10 minutes tell you what needs to be done from now to the next milestone. Simultaneously, I know how to improve the design during that milestone. So it's either less cost in construction or I've added more value and made it more attractive, more designed to increase the rents, right? So I'm able to do all those things simultaneously with multiple projects because I understand the market. And obviously I have my support of my business partner. So it's a really we game. And so we can tackle along a lot of projects together as a development consultant for any type of multifamily project in the city of San Diego.
Yeah, I could see that being really intimidating for people who haven't been involved in real estate before. Especially for you, not even starting with like smaller homes. It's like going right into multifamily. Like we can do this, and then just having the mentality of like, why not us? Like let's move into the full phase development construction. It's really cool. I would say it's, in my opinion, not something that would be really easy to replicate what you're doing, but it's really impressive to me that you've been able to build that entire business.
Yeah. And to explain to everyone, I'm the new kid on the block. I'm 3 years into the business. And so I haven't made it yet, but I'm starting to get a lot of attention from successful developers, successful investors. And I'm just capitalizing that opportunity and just overperforming wherever I can. And so I'm just shortening the amount of time it takes to do tasks, while at the same time improving relationships, simultaneously building a lot of pipeline. So if you can do all those three things or have a mixture of whatever you find your competitive edge in the market, and you can stack and compound, you can separate yourself from most people. Because I may not have the money in the balance sheet personally, but for someone like who does, they'll take 3 years for me to do something that takes a year and a half or 2 years. Because I'm the operations piece, I've seen it. So I know how it goes. I know how the city works. I know what the engineers look at. I know what the architects look at. I know how this building gets designed. And people send me lots. I can do it like that. Oh, I know exactly what you need to do for highest best use on this lot. And I know what the steps are to actually execute and pull out a profitable building at the end of the project.
That's huge. Have you had anybody who's returned to you as an investor to do another development? I know you've been in for 3 years.
Yeah, right now I would say I have investors that are locked in. Most of my projects that are going full cycle right now are smaller end. The bigger projects are still in the process. With the company, the entity itself, Gotzik, my business partner has done full cycle of around 300 million in developments, and he's 32. So he started 10 years ago at a young age, and then he took me on when I was 25.
Nice.
So 2 young guys figuring it out.
Yeah,
and a
love
couple
it.
killers, man. A couple killers in the market.
That's for sure. Yeah, that's how, like, me and my business partner, he's 1 year younger than me, but I know we still have a lot more work to do, and we want to get into purchasing our own real estate here pretty soon, because all of our portfolio is based on management. So a lot of this stuff is super intriguing to me. But is there any personal projects that you're trying to take on? Any like individual investments outside of your business that you're looking to invest in?
Yeah, I think I stack my investments with what I'm doing with me and Gotzik and the company. What I'm personally looking for actually I'm looking for lots that are 7,000 square feet or more in North Park area, with the goal of capturing around 10,000 square feet to do a fully parked or majority parked apartment building, around if it's a 30 unit with 15 parking spots or 20 parking spots, or even go bigger where you're doing a 60 unit development and you have 30 to 40 parking spots. Something like that. That's where my attention is. And that's where I personally want to be. Simultaneously, it's where the company's going.
Yeah.
So it just so happens to be that my personal path and my company path are directly aligned with each other.
But you also said you want to be involved in potentially the hospitality space in the future.
The hospitality space. I'd love to figure out how to do a boutique hotel, less than 30 doors. And that market is anything coastal. It doesn't have to be San Diego related. It can be outside. I think Miami is a great other market. I know that there's a couple other smaller markets that are dominating right now that are secret. And I'm looking at those ones just from a passion side, but not actively pursuing yet. I think in 5-10 years, I'll start to do the hospitality stuff. For now, it's all multifamily development and construction.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's cool because you kind of have that opportunity to pivot if you want.
Yeah.
You're already making multifamily development. I mean, I guess the thing is, I don't know what the city says about maybe rent controlled units can't be short-term rentals, right? So maybe if you have like 18 short-term rentals in one building and then 3 that aren't, I don't know how they'd all mesh.
Yeah, it's short-term rentals hard to do while you have long-term rental in the same building at times. I'm sure you're familiar with it. I think you have to have you have to be in the right location for that. In my opinion, location plays a big factor. And most of my stuff is going to be long-term rentals with majority market rate with some affordable housing. Yeah. Because it's required and I'm okay with that.
Have you ever gotten some like weird requests for design for buildings where they like really want a certain amenity or like feature within a bedroom where they think that like this can make the difference between renting it out for $3,000 or $3,500?
Yeah, I think I'm strong with you have to do in-unit washer dryer. You have to have a master as a walk-in closet, and you have to have a real living room and a circulating kitchen. Those things seem mandatory, but they're not. Most projects don't have that. So because the incentives have allowed for so much development, you can get smaller and smaller and smaller units, you're lacking those amenity choices. So I actually believe in the old style development. In terms of additional design implications, I think people want a good curb appeal. I think people want private balcony spaces. I think people want common space if you're in an apartment building. And we're just really good at utilizing a lobby. You know, when you walk into hotels or apartment buildings, there's a lobby that's dead empty. That's called dead space. That wasn't correctly implemented. How do you implement that space to where it's usable and where it'll actually be used? It's the art of how you actually implement these common areas into the whole theme of the development. That's where you set yourself apart.
So you add like a pool table, a fireplace.
Yeah, you can add a ton of ways. I think look at the secret that I've noticed is look at hospitality and hotels. Try to implement something very similar into a multifamily space where you're spending a little bit more money in that area and make it very attractive, very inviting, where you can have sit down, you can have some workspace, you can have some certain amenities if you want to put a coffee bar or something there. Not something that no one will use. You have to really creatively think, what is that space going to be? And if you can target it to where your building is very similar themed and you can market it really well, you'll use that space will get utilized. Yeah. I think that's the secret sauce in development.
Cool. Yeah, I would totally agree from a hospitality perspective. I mean, that's huge. I know one of the buildings that we manage downtown, it's funny, you talk about like the mesh between like long-term and short-term rental. We basically manage the 4th, 5th, and the 6th floor in a 6-story building. The 1st, 2nd, and 3rd are all long-term.
Wow.
Top 3 are short-term, and nobody has an issue with it except for the third floor guests because they have the short-term right above them.
Short-term above them.
I mean, people are always going to have issues with other tenants being annoying and loud above them or around them, but it can definitely work. So
yeah, I'm sure. I'm just not familiar with that space. For everyone, I'm more multifamily, long-term rental. How do you take a piece of property, put a big valuable building that looks cool, sexy, and will rent really well? Sure. And build cost affordably at the same time. So it's like the feats of strength of development I'm trying to figure out right now. And I got some big projects in the city that will go full cycle. And that's where the social proof will come in.
Cool, man. Yeah. I guess one of my last questions I'll ask you is, downtown San Diego, which is an area that we haven't really touched on too much, but what is your opinion on that for development? I know the the real estate is pretty limited there just because it's so dense and there's a lot of very, very big buildings, but I know there's also occasionally some opportunity for redevelopment over there for like, some mixed use buildings. Is that at all something that you've been interested in getting involved in?
I think when I look at downtown, I have the problem of looking at it as the skyscraper world, where you can go build skyscrapers because you have such good zoning and high density to go do that. So if the zoning says that's what you can do, you should do it. So I like the creative smaller buildings. The problem is that you'll get outpriced by the guy who's going to go put the 30-story on it. So you have to be really good at capturing the off-market opportunity to go find those deals, to go do something very creative and smaller. And I'm just not versed in that space. I think that there is someone out there that is crushing it right now doing it, especially East Village area. If you start to break out just from downtown a little bit out into submarkets, you get a little bit better. I know Little Italy is a great area, is a great example 5 years ago, but now you have all the big projects coming into it because you can put a 30-story building on there, 20, whatever they're doing, those massive skyscrapers, and it pencils, and you can do no parking. And it pencils. It's kind of crazy in the downtown realm. So I steer away from it because it's not my space.
Yeah, I think if you're going to go lower than 50 units, it might have to be a boutique hotel.
Yeah, that would be sexy. And you're familiar with some of the players that are in that space doing that in those areas. And so am I. They're far and few, but if you know how to do it, you can crush it.
Definitely.
But I'm focusing on multifamily. I'm gonna be in that space for 5 years. I'll break in the hospitality after Let me go build 200 units to 300 units in the submarkets of city of San Diego, and then call me back and we'll go do a hotel project together.
Yeah, hell yeah. I'll have you back on the podcast. That'll
Yes,
be great. Good stuff. Well, yeah, I think that's everything that I had as far as questions for you, but is there anything else that you wanted to share? Maybe where people can find you on socials? Yeah.
So people can find me. We'll put my information here, but the company is Gottsik, GOTTSIK, construction.com. You can find me on LinkedIn, Noah Martin, Instagram, Noah Martin. If anyone has any questions about anything real estate related in San Diego, I'm a nerd for this real estate world and the zoning world. So feel free to reach out to me. If any investors who are interested and want to get familiarized with San Diego, or people have property, want to value it, look at me as a one-stop shop for all those cool ideas. And I'm sure if not I can do it, I know someone that's willing to support you.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, Noah, I appreciate you being on here. Thanks, it was really cool getting your perspective on real estate, and you have a really unique experience. So I'm glad that we were able to have a discussion. So appreciate you coming in.
Yeah, Jay, thank you. Thank you everyone else on the podcast, and we'll stay connected, man.
Sounds good. All right. Take care. We'll see you next time.
Yep.